during my trip, I saw myself. I saw my 3-year-old self come to me.
Wow.
Yeah, and I called my name. I was like, "Oh, hey, sweetheart, how's it going?
Wow.
I'm sorry for hurting you sometimes.
Yeah.
You're
Were
beautiful.
you crying in that?
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. I love
Oh
you."
shit.
And then I had to let her go.
Side allows to join with the phone, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. This is different. This feels like I'm doing I don't know, some like Snapchat shot.
Some live stream, It
Weird
feels
as
like you
fuck, though.
jumping on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. A lot of platforms don't allow that. I was recently using, maybe we've talked about it with you. I switched from Zencaster. Have you heard about Zencaster?
I heard about that. I actually wanted to use it as well. Now I also switched to Riverside, actually.
Yeah. And you say you're paying for it, and so am I. I had to buy the subscription, because,
yeah, me too.
Yeah, I had to get. Man, I feel like, first of all, thanks a lot for joining. I feel like I'm interviewing a big podcaster because I've binged a lot of your episodes, I must confess.
Oh, you did? Oh, thanks so much, man.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I really like it. And the reason why I decided to send the invitation is because you managed, first of all, I gotta compliment your ability to come up with truly interesting guests. How the hell did you do that?
Actually, that's a good question. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I think that if you want to be a good podcaster, if you're not listening to podcasts, I'm not saying it's not doable, but you're at a disadvantage. Because when you listen to podcasts, you get the idea of what you want to have and what I gravitate towards. I assume that my listeners are going to as well. So if I listen to a podcast and it has a certain interesting topic, I'm like, okay, that's the type of guest I want to have. I'm not going to have this particular guest because I'm a nobody compared to the interviewer, but someone similar, good enough. So that's how I pick my guests.
You probably have to be sort of led by the question whether you would like to listen to this guest as a listener, right? Other than being the host. Because, man, sometimes honestly I regret for having some guests. Do you regret sometimes having somebody kind of lame and uninteresting? Like, has that happened to you?
Without naming any guests, it happened that I had somebody on my podcast and they were talking a lot, and in my head I was like, "Ooh, I'm not even gonna post this, so I'm just wasting my time."
Wow, really interesting. And did you post it eventually?
Fuck no. Why?
No, that's it. Yeah, I'm talking about. Wow. What I also like about your episodes is that it's one thing that I, for some reason, don't quite allow myself is that you talk, and I praise it and I compliment it, because there are so many podcasts when, what was the name of this guy? He's a famous one. Chris Wilkes or Williamson. Maybe you've heard about Modern Wisdom podcast. That's it. You ever heard about that podcast? Yeah. No. So I kind of like the way how he asks questions. His questions are very short and on point, very goal oriented to get to the point. And then he's just silent. I'm not like that. When I ask a question, I got to remind myself sometimes to shut up. Do you think that could be a problem?
That actually is my problem. But I like to have an actual conversation. I don't just want to ask questions and then be quiet. Besides, I know a lot about my guests, so a lot of the time what they say I already know, so that's double boredom for me. So I need to talk to these people, and I can't just be quiet. It's like
Yeah, I must confess, in stealing a guest of yours, I don't know if I found that guy directly through your podcast or via Matchmaker. You are on the platform, right?
That's right.
You remember that? Yeah. So you've happened to interview the blind exorcist. I think the name is Justin.
Oh, yeah.
And I've recorded a podcast with him. Yeah. That's a hell of a guest, positively speaking, for sure, right? He has quite a story. What do you think? What do you make out of that podcast that you did with him? Were you impressed with what he has to share?
I was, and I would like to bring him on again because recently I really got into near-death experiences.
Oh, shit.
So I would definitely like to open that up. I think he said a couple of things that I really rethink now. I'm thinking back, and I really want to revisit that conversation. So I'll reach out to him. Thanks for reminding me.
Oh yeah, for sure. He's a great person, really supportive and great interlocutor. So would I be sort of crossing the borders if I asked you to elaborate a little bit about those near-death experiences? Because, it's like the podcast is not going to be too structured. Like, I don't got much of a script. I've got a couple of questions I'd like to ask you, but, other than that, it's just going to flow. So if that's not too personal.
I recently came back from ayahuasca trip.
Oh, hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Man, I love talking about psychedelics on the show. I don't got a lot of guests who would support the conversation, unfortunately.
Well, it's a new era of psychotherapy, Yeah. If it's, I think I'm quoting one of my guests when I say that if it's done right, one good session with entheogens can be like 12 years or more of traditional psychotherapy. Psychology without psychedelics is like biology without the microscope.
Correct. Shit, that's a beautiful quote. Yeah. Nice. So was that your first time?
It was my first time, yeah. And even before, I watched a lot of interviews of people who had near-death experiences. So they were clinically dead for up to even 20 minutes. And they all report the same, similar experience. So the main thing was they went out of their body, and they watched their body lay on the ground, laying in a hospital bed, whatever. And it was very common that they didn't really feel anything towards that body. They had no empathy. It was just something they were using for a while, but they weren't attached to it in any way. So that's the first common experience. The second common experience is them thinking, okay, that's it. Like, this is death, but nothing changed. Which is, and also they didn't want to go back.
Right. Wow. That could be interesting, maybe even overwhelming.
Yeah.
So when you say left that body, do you mean during the ayahuasca trip or due to some?
Yes, during the ayahuasca trip, many people also have a near-death experience, so they're leaving their body, and it didn't happen to me, but it is common that you actually leave your body, right? So, and I assume when it comes to near-death experiences that when you actually die, I'm assuming that it's not only a pleasurable experience, but it's like someone takes away the burden that you didn't even know you had.
Yes, I've been lately thinking a lot about it. Like, it must be alleviating. Unless it's excruciatingly painful death, right?
But I'm not sure what happens in these cases, you see, because it's excruciatingly painful to your body when you have the nerves. I'm not sure. Maybe it's the same thing. I don't know. Well, we'll never find out, I guess.
I guess we will once and only once, right? Only once. Yeah, when I did my first mushroom trips and the things that I saw, ever since that, I kept asking myself a question, shit, maybe that's exactly where I go after I die. So I started to rationally suppose to myself that maybe in the brain there's like this specially reserved department that keeps something that you've done during your life or some dreams of aspirations or particular like warm memories or something. And maybe that's where you resort after the physical body is dead. But then I think, well, shit, okay, smart ass. And what about those cases when people blow their brains out? What if the brain is damaged? So I guess I gotta die without damaging my brain. Well, that could be used as a as a little short and probably misrepresented that phrase of mine.
That's right.
I was going to ask you, the topic of near-death experiences, in my opinion, quite commonly connected with lucid dreams. How's your experience with lucid dreams? Have you ever messed with that?
Interesting. I recently talked to someone who introduced me to lucid dreams. I've heard the term lucid dreams before, but I've never really realized how incredible it is. Can we curse on this podcast?
Hell yeah, we can, man. That's the only bro. If I can't curse on the podcast, what's the point of having it? For sure.
Yeah, exactly. So he's the one who made me realize how fucking amazing they are.
Oh yeah.
So I haven't experienced them yet, but I know that there are things you can do so that you, what would you say, increase the possibility quite rapidly of you experiencing lucid dreams. And have you had them before?
Oh, hell yes. Let me tell you this, though. That was a whole period of my life. I love talking about it, and I'm so happy that... Listen, I have a sense that we're going to have to repeat this episode a couple of times. I think you're going to be a repeated guest because there appears to be the whole list of topics. I think many years ago, around 2013, 14, I got truly obsessed with that, and I'm happy that I wasn't kind of influenced by nobody like currently a lot of people are. We just watch something on the internet. Or maybe I should take my words back because, I remember I had watched this film with DiCaprio, Inception it is. You've seen that, right? About a guy who stole people's dreams and kind of gave them ideas. Have you seen that film?
No, but you kind of do look like DiCaprio, by the way.
Me? Well, I don't know if that's a compliment, but thank you. I wish I was on the same financial level as him, but maybe I'm getting there, right?
You are getting there.
Yeah, so yeah, it's a wonderful fucking film. You gotta watch it. I'm telling you, when the podcast is over, go and watch Inception, 2009.
Okay.
Oh man, it's one of the best films ever. Inception, yeah, so good. Tom Hardy, Leo DiCaprio, Marion Cotillard, everybody's there. Top notch actors. So yeah, and this film is about a guy who went into lucid dreams, but well, it's a futuristic film by Christopher Nolan. So according to the film, you could have this mutual lucid dreams, like a multiplayer game. I don't think we've literally done anything like that. There have been some studies, but they are questionable. And I watched that film. I was like, and everything is so good. The soundtrack, the actors, everything's so good. And I thought, shit, I've been recently having crazy dreams. So maybe it's time for me to take the advantage of those dreams, to kind of utilize them for something. And back in those days, I had no laptop. I had no good internet. The only thing I had is this shitty ass Nokia phone. And I went deep on the internet. I started reading books on this tiny ass screen. I think I fucked up my sight pretty badly in this time. Yeah. And I started taking part in forums. I went real deep. Journals. You may have heard about the importance of journaling, to write down your sleep and your dreams. I went balls deep. And the first time it happened, my life was split onto before and after. This was such a euphoric, fantastic feeling. You're going to understand what I mean. If you keep actively practice it, it's going to happen. And that was totally life transformative. I've done every single technique out there. I don't know what techniques you've been exposed to. When you say that you can do certain things to facilitate lucid dreams, do you refer to like reality checks, something like that?
Yes. The only thing I remember him saying was reality checks. So he has some bracelets that he likes to pull every now and then. Or actually, if you have a bracelet and if you can read what it says on a bracelet, that means you're not in a dream, because in the dreams you cannot read, right?
See, dreams strangely tend to have some weird laws of physics. Like it's difficult to read. It's difficult to turn on the lights from the first time. Sometimes you can breathe when you kind of pinch your nose like that. Yeah, so you can do it. I did that one. It fucked with me, to be honest, because I was like, man, I don't want to do this shit during the day. But that's what I was doing. And the first time I went there, I was having a ring. on the index finger, and I understood that I need to kind of twist it like that. And if the ring twists, slides on the finger normally, that means I'm in reality. And what the hell do you know? One day I'm in the backyard of my house. Everything looks beautiful. The wind is blowing. The birds are chirping. I'm enjoying the forest, and I'm trying to do the shit because it's become, you got to get messed up about it. You got to be so focused on doing this that you even do it in the dream. And I'm trying to slide that bitch. I'm trying to twist it, kind of, and bam, it's stuck. And I was like, no fucking way. It was the best moment of realization I've ever had in my life. So I jumped backwards like that, and I start just 90% of the shit you're going to do is just flying. Flying is so euphoric. One time you fly in a dream, you've got energy enough to run you during the week. It was fascinating. And needless to say, I've done a lot of shit in those things. The only limit is your imagination. It's wonderful.
Can you bring certain people from your real life into your lucid dream?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, there are certain techniques how you can materialize objects or people. Yeah, it won't always go according to the plan because, your brain is the subconscious is a bit unpredictable. You want to bring, a friend of yours, and then, what do you know, fucking Adolf Hitler appears.
Well,
So
I would assume it's also kind of dangerous for you because then you're creating false memories with people that you know in real life. Isn't that a little bit messed up?
it's there is this thing, I don't remember what is it called. It's a crazy thing how some people, it's kind of borderlines with schizophrenia, but some people use lucid dreams to literally persuade themselves that certain things or people are real. So they persuade themselves, they just brainwash themselves to the point that they start seeing it. It is, and it's a practice, like it's a legit practice. Tulpa, whatever it's called, I don't remember the name of it. Yeah. Well, you gotta be, lucid dreams. The reason why I kind of stopped practicing it actually is because it occupied way too much focus of mine. The only thing I wanted to do is just to fall asleep, to take a nap as soon as I could. And man, I've done so many things, so many wild things, so many crazy techniques. It's good, but I'm envious to you because your first time is coming. You got to be excited. You got to be excited. I'm gonna drop you some links afterwards, some website that will probably allow you to get your first lucid dream maybe in 2 weeks, in 2 weeks of lazy practice. Yeah, there is one guy who's really good at that, really good.
What are some don'ts for someone who's just a beginner in this and wants to experience it?
I guess you gotta be balanced, you gotta be balanced and you gotta appreciate reality. That is a common problem with a lot of practitioners. So, because everything, you're not limited by anything. You feel it. A lot of people only assume that it's like you're kind of tripping, you're imagining. It's not that. It's more real than what you see right now. You can taste, you can smell, you can hear, you can feel anything. So good. In fact, quite often, sometimes in the morning you wake up and you are kind of impressed still under the influence of a dream and how nice everything was and how colorful everything is. Well, that's a lucid dream. That means you can do whatever you want. A lot of people use it productively. A lot of people use it to fight with their phobias. If you've got public speaking problems, maybe you can use it or whatever. Yeah, but to me, it was just exciting because I understood, man, that was the first moment when I understood you can do literally anything you want. If not in reality, at least in a dream. And it will feel so goddamn real, I'm telling you.
Maybe also, a risk is that it kind of becomes addictive and you like it more than the actual reality. I think absolutely. Yeah, and everyone can ask themselves, people listening to this, if there was an option, which I believe it's going to be in the future somewhere, where let's say you sit on a chair or you lay down and someone puts a helmet on your head and it connects it to your brain nerves somehow. And now your second life begins and you can choose how you want to look like. You can choose where you want to go. You can choose where you are. So what is presented to you is a virtual reality in which you function and you are actually also attached to all the sensors on your body. So everything feels real in this world. And now this is your life. So you are experiencing your second persona in your second life, but in reality, you're just laying on a cushion and you're wearing a helmet and you're just covered in whatever's connected to your nerves. I think people would just lay there all the time and that would become their actual life. Yeah. And I think this is also what we have to watch with these advanced video games and, what is it called?
Yeah, we're going
reality, something like that, right? And I think we have to be careful because if your life sucks, all you have to do is you just plug yourself into this reality and there's your life. And now everything else is like a dream. And then that's your reality. Yeah. So that could
and then the necessity for physical body is less and less important and you don't take care of yourself. And then somehow, well, that's a legit plot from something like Black Mirror, or I think that was this film Transcendence with Johnny Depp, that he managed to upload his mind into a network, like a computer network, and he started living in digitally.
But it's also rational in certain cases because it's not right, whatever you want to call right, but let's say your life is messed up. Let's say you're addicted, you have a fucking abusive spouse, you have nothing, you are poor, and then this is your virtual life. Okay, well, would you rather have 50 years of your actual life or 1 year of your virtual life before you just collapse? Well, some people may use 1 year, short and sweet, right? So, man, yeah.
Yeah, it depends, I guess. It depends on, I feel like it depends on a lot of varieties. Like that thing, I'm kind of happy that I got done with that, to be honest, because I don't really know if I would have some kind of achieved whatever I achieved in these years post that experience. Yeah, and the reason why I'm bringing it up is because according to the technique that proved to be the most efficient, I'm going to send you the link, you will read it, you'll think about it. It really, like, if you follow the steps, it's super easy. You don't need to get messed up with this reality checks and none of that shit. And the technique that I was using, it kind of allows you, so the magic, I'm going to give you a little bit of spoiler. The most magical moment to get into that is this beautiful conjunction of when you've just woken up and you haven't moved your body. So there is only the first glimpse of consciousness in your brain. Lucky you if you haven't even opened your eyes. If you haven't managed to open your eyes, that's the best moment. So you understand you've awakened, your eyes haven't been open, you haven't moved your body, and then you start doing certain techniques right here, you know. So like a good technique, for example, is to think of a way, for example, from your room outside, you know, and on that way you need to mark certain points, right? For example, the kitchen, maybe bathroom, maybe something in the corridor, right? And in that precious magical moment, you've got to imagine yourself going that path, you know, paying attention to all of those highlighted places as carefully as you can. You know, so trying to feel how you're touching whatever the door or what you feel when you go out and something like that. And because you are currently in this special condition, you will manage some parts of your brain will fall asleep, but the consciousness will hopefully, you know, remain. And that bit of consciousness will allow you to understand that whatever around you isn't real. That's a new technique. That's a recent technique. The technique that I was referring to, that I was resorting to back when I was practicing, is it's called I don't remember how the hell it's precisely called, but in that precise moment, you have to kind of try to move some of your limb, obviously without physically moving. So it's more of an imagination. So basically, roughly speaking, you got to imagine as if you're moving your hand, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. And if you catch the right moment and you do it persistently and you are not too focused, you got to find the balance, because once you think about it too much, you become too awakened, you know? And once you find that beautiful moment, it feels as if your hand starts moving and you, so to speak, dispatch, roughly speaking, from your body, from your physical body. And that is the moment, that's the point why I'm bringing it up, because that's exactly the point why a lot of practitioners report levitating above their body, looking down at their bed and seeing their sleeping physical body, you know. And that is, when that happens, that's what a lot of people call astral projection or out of body experience. You know, in fact, a small percent of those people, they even report noticing some sort of a silver cord coming from your, I think, navel, right? That point on the stomach, you know, from your current body to your physical body, some kind of silver, you know, thread going like that. I don't know. It never happened with me. And it never was scary. Like a lot of practitioners, you read Reddit or some forums, you say, oh, I'm afraid. What about nightmares? This. It was always euphoric. When I managed, so many times I fucked up because I stood from my bed and I looked in the mirror and I saw myself and I thought that I literally stood. And then after I go to bed, I woke up, I remember that I was wearing different t-shirt and I understood that I literally stood in a dream, but everything was so real and I just fucked it up, you know, because I thought it was hyper real. And that's actually another problem. When it was good, it was excessively good, but it was bad. Like when I fucked up or when the technique didn't work, it was crushing. I hated myself. My problem was because I was kind of young back then and every night I tried different shit. Maybe I should have stuck to, you know, to one technique a bit longer, given it a bit more time.
Well, now I really want to experience it.
Oh. It's so good. It's so good. Yeah, just to have the taste of it. Like, what do you think you would do? Have you got like a, you know, list of things you would like to do?
If I got a plan, I don't really have a plan. I really want to fly. I think that's classic.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be so good. Yeah. I'm telling you. But you got to have a plan. You got to have a plan. If you ain't got a plan, you will always resort to flying. In fact, even if you have a plan, you will also mess up a lot of your points by just flying. Yeah, that was that would be good. That would be good. There is a certain technique how to make it a bit more like a bit more realistic. You gotta kind of, you know, do these actions with your hands when you do, as if you're washing your hands. The dream gets stabilized, you know. So it's like the resolution becomes super nice. Yeah. There are a lot of interesting things, for sure. But man, you gotta first watch the film. I'm telling you, the film will be a good kick. Inception, yeah. Oh, it's a famous film. It's probably like top 5 in every list.
Yeah, yeah. I've heard of it, actually. I just never watched it. I will.
Oh, yeah,
I'll put that down as well. Inception.
Nice. Yeah. So that's it. That's on the topic of lucid dreams. Why? What podcast do you listen? You said you are a fan of podcasts. What do you most actively listen to?
Well, I'm deviating. Now I'm listening to what's the full name? I'm not sure. It's Scott. It just has like Scott, something like that. And he talks about, well, he is a therapist with depression. And he really talks a lot about battling depression and suicidal ideation and stuff. Recently, I experienced a little bit of a burnout because I became a real estate agent and there was a lot on my mind. So after 3 months of basically working all the time, I kind of lost my breath, and burnout is like, it's not even stress. It's just, you become cynical. You just don't want to do anything. You have no empathy anymore. And I was on the verge of like passive suicidal ideation, you know?
Oh, shit.
Yeah, because for those who don't know, you have active and then you have passive. Now, active, we all know what that is, right? You have a plan. You know when and how and exactly the process. But passive is like, I don't really have a plan, but you know, whoever you are up there, if you take me this night, you know, if I don't wake up anymore, I'm going to be fine. I'm not going to have problems at all. Right. So I was to that point. So that was a huge burnout. Yeah. Because I remember finishing work one day and driving home. On my drive to home, I was thinking like, gosh, it would be so good to just like disappear, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think some of our listeners might take it like kind of like a bad rings, you know, like it sounds kind of not too promising, but I know what you mean. You know, life fucking gets overwhelming sometimes.
It does, you know, and I think just for anyone, I mean, or for a lot of people, it's a relief to know that suicide is always an option.
An option, yes. Man, you just reading my thoughts. I don't know if I heard that first on your podcast or something like that.
To me, it's good to know that, okay, there's always this option. I'm never going to take it because it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem, right? It's like using a nuclear bomb to kill a mosquito. But there is that option. And knowing that there is an option of suicide where you can just end it all, it's such a fucking
gives you power. It's kind of empowering almost to a point.
Yeah,
I know. Well, and it's also been this part of a philosophy forever. I don't know. It must have been some Stoic philosopher who said that final decision is on me. I'm trying to project that onto a war condition. I know a lot of soldiers, they say that they always keep a little grenade on them just in case if they get captured. You know, they don't want to be tortured and you know, so they would rather kill themselves. Yeah. But yeah, you know, I think it's also, you gotta be brave. So what do you think about, like, let me get to the point. What do you think? Because, you know, a lot of people consider those who've taken their own lives, like, I don't want to say losers, but cowards in a way, right? Yeah. Do you think you've got to be a coward, or you've got to be the bravest man probably in your own life to take this action? What do you think?
Good question. Well, it's in all cases, actually, I can make a case of suicide being rational, and at the same time, I can make it a case of being irrational. I wouldn't necessarily say cowardice or braveness. Like, yeah, you need some energy to actually take action. So depressed people don't usually commit suicide. They usually do it after they got their antidepressants because now they're in action. But the reason why I think suicide is rational, and you can cut this out of this video, you know, if YouTube says whatever, but because human beings, we will always suffer. Okay, we have no money, we suffer poverty. We have money, we suffer taxes. We are single, we suffer loneliness. We get married, this is when suffering actually starts. And life is suffering, and there's one thing that you can end it with, right? And what we can tell from near-death experiences and just not being here anymore, you have no burden. So suicide is, in a way, it's the most rational decision ever in that way, right? But also, when you commit suicide, the problem that you are trying to solve with suicide has already happened. It already happened. So you're too late. Whenever you commit suicide, you're always too late in committing it.
So it's like an exit, right? It's not a fix, but like an exit.
It's an exit, but you're also projecting that what happened is going to continue to happen or get worse. And future is never certain. Whatever you think, like future is a figment of your imagination. So, and also that correlates to us suffering. Like most of our suffering is our thoughts about either the past, which is done, or the future, which we don't know anything about it anyway. So human beings are the only ones who are capable of suffering something that isn't even here. So, and I think that's insanity.
I don't know if that speaks complimentary of us, to be honest.
It's a form of insanity, suffering something that isn't here, but we are capable. So in that way, suicide is also irrational. That's all.
And so when you keep hearing sometimes some of those mentors and gurus certainly has a bad ring to it, but when you keep hearing those guys that claim to have mastered perfectly the ability to not worry about the future, to live in the present, do you really believe it's even doable, it's even achievable to permanently be in this constant condition of living in the present? Like, do you think that's bullshit that they sell, or is it really achievable?
It's kind of the discovery of time, so knowing that there is a future, is what helped us survive as a species. So it's a gift for you to know that there is a future. I'm not sure if you can get past it, but I think if there is a possibility of you always living in a present moment, then it has to be a daily practice. You have to keep on reminding yourself every day to live in a present moment. I think even hourly reminder would maybe do. But I think, I don't think there is a human who always lives in the present. It's just not in us. I don't think. You can come close to it, and that still gives you joy to live in the present enough. But always living in the present, I don't think so. That's why I kind of end the animal in a way.
Yeah, I think you will also notice certain usage in thinking about the future. Obviously, I don't want to be Captain Obvious, but obviously, I guess, because it's like whatever you're worried about, maybe you should worry about it. Maybe. But then again, you worry about one thing, you get that shit fixed, bam, there's another thing on the horizon. So as you said, it's a never-ending cycle of some kind of suffering and worries, and you just probably have to learn how to ride the wave.
What really helps for me is to imagine myself as a sailor on a boat, riding the wave, that's what you said, and then imagining there being, I'm going to say God, but I don't mean Allah, Jesus, whatever the fuck, I mean some intelligence that already has a plan for you, okay? Let's say nature, whatever, space. And that intelligence is more intelligent than you. It has plans that you cannot grasp, and you cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only do it looking backwards. And it has a plan for you. It's more intelligent than you. It guides you, it protects you, and you're going to be okay. And all you have to do is just roll with the punches, because whatever comes to you is already planned. So in that way, I think just like giving that leadership to the higher power really helps me, because I know, look, you, whoever you are, God, like, you know what to do. Just you guide me. You guide me. I'll manage here on earth. The big plans are in your hand, but I'm just sailing the boat, right?
Now, does it matter for you whether that entity is objectively real? Do you have to often think about whether it's truly true, the presence of an entity, or is it just something that you willingly make up for yourself and you don't think about whether it's objectively true? I think I've asked another guest of mine the other day about this. So I asked, do you think the objective truth doesn't matter as long as you believe subjective thing that serves you well? You know what I mean? So what would you say more important for you? Do you think it's better for you to create something that perhaps is not objectively real or justifiable, but as long as it serves you the right cause, you stick to it? Or do you think that at the end of the day, whatever is objectively true still prevails?
I will say this. from my past experience, whenever I had that belief of someone having a plan and me just following it and not trying to control everything in my life, being a little bit more free, I did way better. I felt better. I accomplished more. And whatever happened was so good that I looked back and I was like, whoa, now this is round circle. This is like someone did have a plan. Everything that happened had its place in this journey. So to me, this is proof that this works. Just me letting go works better than me taking control.
And before you decided to embark on that kind of approach, did you have to almost sort of suppress some skepticism? Did you kind of force yourself into believing something like that? Because, that's the problem. I'm not an atheist, neither am I a religious, so I guess I'm a fucking hypocrite. I guess they got to make another category of people, right? But I think you can't easily dismiss this atheistic non-believers arguments that are so sharp and clever and reasonable. So did you have to, did those voices, these devil's advocates exist in your head?
I would say I started meditating a lot because it helped. Yeah. It kept me more calm throughout the day. And after a while of meditating, I would meditate. Even now I do it maybe like 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes before I go to bed. And as my meditation sessions went on, I started feeling as if I'm actually talking to someone. Because I started off with guided meditation, Headspace, classic. After that, I said a prayer, right? And then before I knew it, I was asking something for something in my life that then actually came. So from my meditation, I naturally gravitated towards this belief that there is something, and that I should let go of control. And when I did that, things got better.
Yeah,
so that's the only thing I can say. But I cannot set a counter argument to atheists, because whatever they say makes so much more sense than what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I think with time, it's like, does everything really have to make sense, or is it more about feeling better?
Feeling right? I mean, it's kind of like, why are you listening to this song if you know it's going to end,
Oh shit, that's a beautiful comparison. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, that's kind of sad. Sometimes I get sad when I start to rewatch a film that I've watched 100 times and everything is so good. But since the very first second, I'm kind of melancholic a little bit because I know this shit is ended. I'm like, man, why am I exposing myself to additional suffering?
Yeah, I think this is also a good point where you have to remind yourself to practice living in the present moment. Because what happens to me a couple of times is I would sit in a restaurant, I would order a meal, they would bring it, and already I'm thinking, gosh, this is going to be over. Like, I'm going to be done with this meal. Yeah, dude.
Wow.
And,
Yeah, it can get so ubiquitous. It's crazy, it's a good thing that we kind of seem to manage that somehow, maybe with questionable success at times, but there are other people that just never get those thoughts out of their head. Yeah. I wonder what happens to them. Do you think they just kill themselves or what? Or do you think they resort to some heavy drugs or what? Those people that aren't the most unable to live in the present, what's next for them, you think?
I think hell is a place on earth, and I think you can enter it while you're here. So trying to constantly control everything, I think this is the best recipe for hell, actually. Because I know some people who are like that, and they are not doing very good. So
So what about I think it kind of correlates to the topic of manifestation, which has been a sort of too mainstream of a word lately. I feel like, what is your thoughts on like sort of putting an image of fantasy into reality by just feeling it so accurately and sharply and strongly that it manifests? Do you think that has a place in our lives, or is it another thing that people sell?
Well, I mean, me personally, I have a cheap trick here. Whenever I try to accomplish something, I tell other people about it, so they kind of hold me accountable. Because, like, I know if I don't, then I'm gonna be asked, like, by multiple people. Hey, so what happened to that? Get the fuck out of here!
I've done that, and I think I wouldn't have done it if I hadn't made the promise. Yeah.
Yeah, just put it out there. Spread the word, spread the word. Force yourself. But
well, as long as you can stick to it. Otherwise, you're just gonna, so many people, they just don't care about their status, about the opinion of other guys. They fail miserably, and they'll be like, "Well, so what? So what? I do what I do."
Yeah. I think words actually lost their significance in this world. Like, I think in the past, maybe I'm wrong, but like what you said actually was important. So you have to kind of watch what you said. Nowadays, you can just say whatever, and there is no meaning and no responsibility behind what you say.
Well, but you may have heard about the studies I'm quoting. I think me, probably as much as you, our sources of information is fucking podcasts. You got to be careful sometimes with what you're repeating, but that's our universities these days. So there have been the studies that say that you actually, when you make a plan for yourself, you got to be silent about it, because the moment you reveal your plan to someone, your brain sort of spikes something similar, some sort of serotonin, whatever it is called, that is very similar to the feeling as if you've achieved it. So your brain feels like you've already achieved it. Have you heard about that? So that's why people say you better keep it on the low, keep it silent, don't really talk about it.
I would, I totally see that. If I tell my plan to someone, like especially to my grandma,
you lose it, right?
Yeah, and she's like,
"Oh man, not to grandma, to anybody, but not to the grandma."
And we're like, "Oh, great, yeah," and then you're like, "Okay, well, now I just have to do it."
Yeah, you've kind of already get the prize. People have already praised you, although you haven't done nothing yet, right?
Also, and I think it's the good thing about this, like keeping it to yourself, is that the anticipation, like knowing, okay, people don't know about this, but I'm going to do it. Okay. And it's this anticipation and something like keeping it to yourself, like knowing that, okay, this is coming, I think that's what also gives the hump, Also, when it comes to like all because when you look at all the addictions, for example, like the actual hit is not the behavior itself, but it's more the anticipation right before you're going to do it. Right? So,
yeah. Well, it's also sometimes hard to keep your mouth shut, to be honest, when you know something super exciting is coming your way. It's like you wanna share it kind of with everybody. So speaking about addictions, I guess, I don't know if that's too connected. How was that? We started on that note, that ayahuasca. What exactly did you see? How long did it last?
For me, it lasted, I would say 8 hours, if I had to put a timeline on it. Because, like, you drink, and then if you're okay, you can drink more, but you don't have to. Like, you can just say, okay, I'm good, And there's multiple ceremonies. It's not like as if you drink only once. Yeah. To me, I kind of, going back to the topic of death, I know what's gonna be like when I die. I know, because during my trip, I saw myself, I saw my 3-year-old self come to me. Wow. Yeah. And I called my name, I was like, "Oh, hey, sweetheart, how's it going? I'm sorry for hurting you sometimes. You're beautiful."
Were you crying in that?
Oh yeah, fuck yeah. I love you. Shit. And then I had to let her go. But I know she's gonna come back when I die. And I remember just like crying, and I was like talking to me as a child. I was like, "Mommy has things to do. I'll come back. Yeah, I just have some things to do." And
it's fucking crazy what those things do to you, right?
Fuck, dude. And it's experiencing Mama Ayahuasca, and I know, like, even without knowing that they call her Mama Ayahuasca, I will still call her Mama Ayahuasca, because it was a mother, and I've never felt so much unconditional love ever.
Whoa.
And my mom is great, but that was like coming home from hellish experience at work or whatever to your mom who gives you hot warm soup. You're warm and it's like, gosh,
the best. It's the best.
Right? Yeah, and you know, when people die, a lot of times in their last seconds, they call their mom. They're like, mama, mama. I don't know if you notice that, but like a lot of times people call their mother. But anyway, so it was, it's just, God.
Wow. Holy shit. Yeah, that's beautiful. You know, it reminds you, it almost like it reminds you all of those psychedelics. They kind of remove like this whole pile of unnecessary shit, and it kind of highlights what really matters. And I think it also speaks to what you've said about calling the mother in the last moment, because it's like, that's when the priorities are highlighted, you know, that's when you understand who is who. So yeah, but okay. And what about those people you think that have like, that hate their parents? I'm an English teacher, and I've happened to have a lesson when the guy was basically speaking, I don't want to say impolitely, but not that complimentary of his parents. So, and I said, maybe you got to kind of reconsider your condition for your own betterness, you know, because otherwise hating your parents does nothing but probably just intoxicates your life. And man, sometimes it's hard not to hate. Like, you know, this thing about the necessity to forgive your parents. Like, it's a big thing for a lot of people because they did make mistakes, make horrible mistakes quite often. So how do you think, maybe let me ask you this way, how do you think that trip would have hit you if you maybe had some problematic relationship with parents or your mom particularly? Do you think it would have helped you to improve the relationship? How do you see it?
I think during a trip, you kind of realize that I am you and you are me. So if we look at it, we kind of can be all one conscious. So it's just thrown in different bodies, right? So I could be my mother. So we have, like, I can see myself in her. So in that way, it's almost impossible to hate because that's an experience of myself in that body. So how can I hate myself if I am me? It's really hard to explain here, but it's like everyone is one conscious, so it's almost impossible to hate. Because when you hate someone, you
hate yourself.
You hate yourself. You are in hate. Like, to me, I don't think it would be possible to deliberately practice intense anger on somebody, for 10 minutes. It's impossible. I'm making myself angry and then I'm angry. I don't. At that point, it's almost impossible to say I'm angry at someone because it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, like you just driven by the feeling.
Yes, and if you interview someone who is currently under, I think, the experience of ayahuasca, under the influence of ayahuasca, it's almost impossible to communicate with them because they'll be using certain expressions that will make no sense to you. So, for example, if my head hurts right now, I'm going to say, my head hurts, man. And you're going to know what I mean, right? But let's say I'm under influence, and this is just an example. I'm going to say, I am pain. It's like, okay. Cool.
Oh, so it would still make sense, though, right? It wouldn't be some kind of gibberish that I was saying when I popped 5 grams of shrooms. I started sounding like a frog.
It would make sense.
I invented my own language.
It would make sense, but it would be to the depths where it would be hard to understand. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Did that thing get recorded maybe? I imagine that was like a whole ritual, right? You probably flew out. So do they offer to get a recording so that you later can re-listen to it? Or is it, you think, even unnecessary to re-listen to it?
I didn't even want no recordings. I was like, to hell with it. I took one photo of the whole environment, the place where the ceremony was happening, and then that was it. But they can record. They can record the ceremonies. I didn't see them record. I don't think they record ceremonies when you actually drink it. I'm not sure, but before, there are certain ceremonies where you kind of take a bath, like sun bath, and then something with leaves and stuff, So yeah, they can record that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, that's beautiful. Were you scared before drinking it?
Actually, no. I prepared myself. I watched a lot of podcasts. I knew that I'm in good hands. And yeah, it was great.
Taking those psychedelics, especially high dosages, it teaches you about trust, about self-trust like nothing else does.
That's true. Although I don't know if you heard about my first experience with shrooms. You heard about that?
Yeah, but I don't remember it now. Yeah, I think I remember hearing it, but I don't remember the details. Was it bad?
It was bad. I went to Amsterdam to take them because I wanted to make it special, and I took 7 grams, Very first
Holy
time.
fuck, first time?
Yeah.
Shit. I popped 5 and people call me crazy. You did 7.
7. Oh.
Do you remember the name of the strain, maybe?
Amazon.
See, you will get back to your story, but I think in defense of your bad trip, I have heard reports. I've repeatedly heard from people who've been to Amsterdam and have taken certain things. Those things that they sell in those shops, I think it's not exactly the kind of mushroom that you can grow yourself or you can stumble upon somewhere in a forest, right? I think this shit that they sell, it's kind of a little bit, it's not softer, maybe, probably you're gonna attest to it, then it may hit you even harder, but it's still, it won't give you some sort of, did you have post that trip some kind of great revelation, conclusion for your life? Did you have it?
No. I took them in a hotel room because I didn't want to jump in a river or something, and I had a 7-hour trip. I was chased by a giant cauliflower. I was running up and down a hotel. And then I had to pay restitution money when I left because I broke some things. And I learned nothing. So there you go.
Yeah, so that's the problem. Because the mushrooms that you get otherwise anywhere else besides Amsterdam, I think the best thing, at least that's what happened with me, is the post trip kind of, understanding, clarity that comes to you. And that shit that they sell in Amsterdam ain't gonna give you. It's gonna give you some crazy visuals, probably, it trips you, but nothing of that kind. 7 grams. So how did you not become prejudiced, biased after these crazy 7 grams? Because a lot of people would have lost their faith in these substances.
Well, just knowing that 7 grams is a no-no, I decided to give it another shot. And I said, okay, this time I'm taking 3. I took them here at home. And after that, it was okay. And I said, okay, if after those 3 grams, if I have another bad trip, I'm done with this shit, but I have to do it again. Just to make sure, because when I make a mistake, sometimes I make it again just to make sure it was a mistake. And it was not. So, yeah. So I said, look, one more time, what can you lose?
Mm-hmm. And how did that go? How long did 3 grams last?
3 grams was okay, like 5 hours. I went outside for a walk, right? I went outside. I did like a circle around the hill. It was winter time, but to me, it was total spring. And I could see the leaves, the trees were smiling at me. It was beautiful. And then something, as if something took me by the hand that said, we're not doing this today. I'm happy that you're experiencing and being in La La Land, but let's go back inside the house. And I went back inside, and as if something placed me on my sofa. So I laid down, and it was as if I'm having a fucking therapy with someone. I don't know, just something told me to lay down. And again, because when I took them, I wanted to know certain things. I wanted to know, what am I going to do with my career? What am I going to, am I doing right? Like, is this thing going to work out? Is that thing legit? And as I laid down, it's almost as if this therapist told me, okay, leave that aside. This is like totally not important right now. Like, we have better things to fix. And I was like, yeah, I was so silly. Like, why was I thinking about that? There's so much bigger things out there than a stupid fucking career and stuff.
And it's so crazy how you were totally incapable of noticing it before the trip.
Exactly.
How focused do we get on the wrong things, and it's so impossible to zoom out, right?
See the bigger picture.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And were you alone, or was there somebody around you?
Well, unfortunately, I was alone. But I know it's better to have someone that you can kind of talk to.
It's interesting, yeah. I don't even know. Like, I'm thinking, I live in a private house, but I don't even know if I would want to pop like even 2 or 3 grams on some high floor. You know what I mean? Because it's not like I know that you need to trust yourself. If you don't trust yourself, don't even take those substances. But then who the fuck knows? Who the hell knows? You know?
Yeah, dude.
What if you're gonna fucking think you can fly and then bam, turns out you can, or maybe turns out you can and you fly the fuck away and people think, you know, you are unprecedented. Interesting. And I think you've also mentioned microdosing, right? You've been doing that, I bet.
I haven't started yet, but yeah. I do plan on microdosing. I think I'll try and see. After a few months, I'll see how I feel like, you know. I'll do maybe like a 3-month period and then go off for some time and then do it again.
It's amazing. It's so good. I can't obviously. I'm not doing it, but I have had periods when I was doing it. I was probably doing it. The longest I did, it wasn't too long, maybe months, you know. And I was also, it's like, it's a little bit of adventure because I would wake up and maybe some people know how to make their tiny dose, maybe with some tool, a little special knife. I was just, I don't know, I was picking up like a Caesar, so just a knife and just, you know, approximately. And, you know, sometimes you cross the border just a little bit by a couple of millimeters, you blink and you see a little film before your eyes, you know, so you got to be careful with that. But it was nice. It made me, you know, I've talked to a person about that the other day. I understood that it made me braver. And this was interesting. Like the shit that was happening to me during that time, if I wasn't microdosing, it would have hit me much harder and I would have been kind of much more sort of distracted by them, you know. But then it makes you really brave and it kind of reveals your authentic self. So I'm excited for you, to be honest.
That's what I need. I think I should practice telling
authenticity, you think?
Telling the truth more, because now I really started paying attention to what I'm saying, and throughout the day, it's just, I tell a lot of lies, honestly, to be honest. I tell someone, ooh, I can't do it that day because I'm busy. I'm not busy. And it's like, and then I say, no, okay, I'll give it to you by Monday. I won't give it to you by Monday. You know, like those little white lies every now and then, it's like, I don't know, man. I feel like if I just started telling the fucking truth all the time when I fuck up something, like tell someone, I think it would be an adventure of my life.
And would you say, do you think it's mostly because of the job specific? Is certain occupations just need you to be...
Yeah, it is a little bit of job specific because being a real estate agent, there's things that like if you tell the truth all the time, first of all, you're not going to have any clients. You're not. And then second of all, you're not going to have as good of an offer on the house or whatever you're selling. I mean, I'm not saying lie, you know, but I'm just saying, like, being totally honest.
Yeah, like nobody was ever murdered in that house. Meanwhile, the history says that 3 families got taken, right?
Like, just when someone asks you, oh, so is this house interesting on the market? Is there any interest? Like, I'm going to say, well, there is some interest, even though there's no interest. Like, I'm not going to say, no, man, like you're the only one.
Yeah,
but I really want to, like, maybe for 3 months, I want to start practicing that. Like, just tell it how it is.
Be careful. You gotta have some plan B for your occupation, you know, because it might take you to, you know, unpredictable places in terms of job market. Are you satisfied with your job, with what you're doing?
It's good money.
See, I think the fact that you take a little bit of pause, probably, right? Do you think you compromise some of your personal beliefs with what you do?
Honestly, no. But I do think that podcasting is what I'm going to be doing full time sooner than later.
You got to come back. You got to get back. I might be wrong, but I think you haven't dropped in a while, haven't you?
I haven't dropped in a while. I have one recording coming out. I'm editing it. Today I have to finish editing. So I'm going to start dropping out. I have a sponsor, BetterHelp.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I was going to ask you. Did they reach out to you?
No, I reached out to them. They're not going to reach out to me. So getting a couple of sponsors, maybe starting a Patreon, and I'm going to, you know, I have better software for recording and editing and bigger and better guests all the time. So I'm really looking forward to that, man.
Man, I don't even know if this podcast shit... I think you would agree that sometimes it might be a little bit... It gets a little bit lost. Because, like, look at those names. You know, we all know those names. Like, look at this Bobby. What's her name? Bobby Hole. You know what I'm talking about? This Bobby girl. You know who I'm talking about?
I think I know.
Yeah, this chick that interviewed Drake, who the fuck is she to have gotten Drake in like after on fifth episode? Yeah. You know, how long have you been podcasting?
I started in July last year.
Yeah. Okay. So it's slightly over a year, right?
More than 1 year.
Man, I ain't seen, with all respect, I ain't seen no Drake on your show, right? No. And probably not too real in the nearest time, unless something miraculous happens. And there are those people, I don't really like the term overnight success, like they say, you know, because she had done something probably, but then bam. And then look at us, you know, sub 500, both of us, right? Yeah, we don't even have 1,000 for both of us.
Slow and steady, you know, slow and steady is what they say. But if you look
so what is...
But maybe some people like there are an anomaly, you know, because when I look at podcasters that I do look up to, I scroll way back and look at their first episode and it's shit. So I think
always, for sure.
So I have to always remind myself to like compare myself to someone's first chapter, not 10th chapter, if I'm on the first chapter. So, you know, it's not big until it is.
I always remind myself, I've got a questionable relationship with Rogan, so to speak, but I always remind myself how he said once that his podcast didn't make any revenue until like 7th or 6th year. So first 5 or 6 years he was not making any money, in fact only investing in it, you know, and then it's only 7th or something year then it started to pay off. Yeah. So what is the worst thing about podcasts? Is there any part of doing this shit that you really dislike?
The worst thing about podcasts? Ooh, that's a good question. I've never thought about that actually. Logistics, technical issues that you deal with. For example, yesterday I started editing this episode and I edited for like maybe a couple of hours and the whole system shut down and I had to close everything. So it's a lot of time that's going to waste. It's never like that with a 9-to-5 job. You know, when you're going to clock in, that's how much I'm getting and that's how much I'm going to get. With podcasting, forget it. You know, like, there's a lot of wasted time. So you have to really like
your editing is much better than mine. You know, you make it really like some sort of, in the beginning, at least almost like documentaries or some, you know, like really exciting videos. You come up with different, like, you know, videos, like bits. I edit it. I put a little, I think we do both like a little preview of what's coming from like an interesting moment. Then I paste it in the beginning, a little intro, bam, and then just a conversation. So what about guests? How do you go about finding those guests? So Matchmaker platform, has that been productive in your experience?
That has been productive. I had some interesting people from there. What I like to do is I like to go on Amazon and type in what I'm interested in, and then find out who the author of the book was and reach out to them. Go to their website or whatever, you know, and just reach out. I mean, it's a numbers game, right? You reach out to 100 people, 50 are going to say, 50 are going to make an excuse. I don't have time. 30 are going to say fuck off, but 20 are going to say maybe, and then 5 go on your show, right? So
yeah, that's nice.
You know, just keep on reaching out all the time, all the time.
Beautiful. Wow. Has your podcast changed you anyhow since you started doing it?
I talked to a lot of people who I, on paper, disagree with. So those are mostly far left-leaning people, people who are just like on the opposite side of my opinion. And as we were talking, I noticed that we're actually very similar. We have we all have core beliefs that we like to follow. You know, so we all want the best for ourselves and each other. And it's just the strategy and the way we go about it, it's different. So it was surprising to me how much fun I can have with people and how much I actually like these people that I disagreed with. You know? Beautiful,
interesting. So it doesn't make you a little bit, does it mostly make you a bit more grounded in your own pre-existing beliefs, or does it still mostly sort of shake your current beliefs after a certain episode? Because, you know, sometimes I close an episode and I think, That was bullshit. And you know, I got a little bit of remorse about that, because there was a period when I would have like maybe 3 or 4 guests that were these, so to speak, financial experts, you know, how to get rich, how to make a fortune, you know, in 3 seconds, blah, blah, blah. And I'm listening to that podcast and I feel guilty and I blame myself for not pressing that dude a little bit more. Because now, you know, it's not even about how many views. I'm lucky to have over 60 views maybe on one video. But I'm like, when I re-listen to that episode, I understand that, what the hell was that? Like, who is this guy? You know, he claims to be an expert in social media, yet his channel has barely 1,000 subscribers. Yeah. So do you have those feelings that you should have been a little bit more tougher with some guests, you think?
Looking back, I think yes, but you kind of have to walk a fine line, because if you get too argumentative, then you're just going to stop and they're going to log off and, you know, the whole thing. But I would say don't be afraid to just not publish the episode. I think it's better to have maybe less videos and better quality and be like, oh, that was a good one, than to just, you know, push out videos.
Yeah, reach out to fucking everybody.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just for the number. Also, is becoming popular in podcasting even a goal for you? Is that maybe it's a primitive question, yeah.
There's 2 things I want. The first thing I want is enough money for me to be doing just that. The second thing I want is a proof and a knowing that I'm benefiting people. Like how many people I benefit, I don't give a fuck. But I want it to be at least a couple. And yeah. Those are the only 2 things that I'm really focused on at the moment, honestly. Just benefiting people, knowing that I'm putting something out there that's worth watching and that people benefit from. And then getting enough money for me to start, you know, channeling everything into this venue.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's interesting. In terms of getting a sponsorship, did you reach out to a couple of outlets, so to speak, or was it just BetterHelp?
I only reached out to BetterHelp, but I'm going to reach out to a couple of more. I have to start pushing videos again, so that I can reach out to people. Yeah.
I think these mainstream podcasts are still kicking, obviously. They got all the numbers and revenues. But I think the real gems is something that we have. And often a lot of your guests have podcasts. That's how I found out about you, somehow through some people, right? And I think that's where a lot of wisdom can reside currently. Because those guys, they've kind of said what they've had to say, you know, But then, so what about the last question? I don't want to steal much of your time. Do you find that when listening to a lot of podcasts or just consuming this sort of content, you kind of lose yourself a little bit and you become somebody else, or so to speak? Have you ever thought about that? Have you noticed something like that, like copying, vocabulary, gesticulation, all that stuff?
Yes, I've thought about that. And you do become kind of like a mixture of whoever you listen to. It's kind of like who you hang out with, you know, you become a mixture of that. Also who you read. So a lot of times I hear myself saying things that I heard somewhere or I read somewhere. And I mean, if I agree with it, then maybe it's good enough, you know? It's like, I mean, so much has been said or done that it's almost impossible to reinvent something.
Exactly.
But yeah, I don't really see myself copying someone too much, because like in general, I'm someone who, like, I'm not really prone to copying. If I'm not me, I don't feel well. So a mixture of something that I got in, but still authentic enough so that someone can recognize you, right?
Do you believe in fake it till you make it?
That's a good question. Fake it till you make it. I mean,
probably to a certain extent, I guess.
To a certain extent, yeah. To a certain extent. Yeah.
But at the end of the day, authenticity still matters. But can you even find that authenticity unless you've sort of? It's like, I don't know. You are not. Were you born in the USA?
Oh no, I'm in Slovenia.
So English is not your native language, right?
Not my native language now.
Yeah. How did you go about learning it? Wasn't there, I'm asking because probably there was a big part of copying, right? Trying to sound like that, like this, right?
Exactly. And trying to, because most of a huge majority of my audience is actually English speaking. So US, majority from US, also some from UK and Australia. I learned it in primary school and then high school. And then I just continued because it's like I travel a lot. alone. So I have to talk to people. And I've been to the US a lot, and I will move to New York someday. And, you know, just talking to people on podcasts is like I'm speaking English all the time. And I also have friends, for like international friends who I'm on.
But currently you're not based in the US, are you?
No, currently I'm in Slovenia.
Wow, that's interesting. Interesting. Have you ever had thoughts, because I've got a couple of podcasts recorded in Ukrainian. Have you thought about making a podcast with some local interesting guests speaking in your native language?
Absolutely. But in Slovenia, I kind of don't really know who to bring on, you know, honestly.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, just me creating one episode in Slovenian language. It's a little bit risky because I don't want to lose the US audience, because this is who I'm focused on. This is who I'm targeting. And also a lot of topics are, well, targeted at the US citizens specifically.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you seem to be taking it seriously. That means that we will be privileged with another episode. When do you think you're dropping this next one?
I'm so down. The next episode, I'm going to edit it today, and I'm going to edit it tomorrow. And then on Monday, it's going to be ready. When I'm going to post it, I don't know, maybe Thursday. But when I was posting before, I had Wednesday was my day, but I'm going to start posting it on Thursdays now.
Yeah. Good. I'm going to also give you a Spotify subscription. I think I only follow you on YouTube.
Oh, hell yeah.
So Spotify would be good. How are you? Do you listen to podcasts on Spotify mostly?
I do listen to, it depends. I mean, on podcasts, I listen to Jordan Peterson and Joey Diaz. And then on YouTube, I listen to this Sam that I started listening to now, and a little bit of others. So both.
Right. Yeah. Good. Unbelievably happy that we've recorded it, and happy to have met you. I think it turned out to be a pretty lovely episode.
So good. And you know what I like? I like how authentic we are. Because I know,
it's interesting.
In a lot of podcasts, people write down exactly what they're going to say, and they don't listen to what the other person is talking. They're just waiting so that they can.
So it's more of an interview, right?
Yeah, or maybe it's also a monologue with pauses in between, right? So, but you know, we're like pretty much.
Let me tell. Maybe it's because we haven't been spoiled by wealth. Let's see what happens if we make it.
So we can
right?
be fucking authentic.
Yeah, our privilege is in the fact that we don't make much. At least, I think you do something, not me for sure. Well, thank you very much.
All right, thanks so much, man. That was awesome.
So.